I think you have to go in from an honest conversation in day one that says, here's the relationship that you're trying to invest in. You grow or my company goes, right?
Welcome back to another episode of the Revenue Reimagined podcast. We are super excited for our guest today. We have with us Austin LaRoche, who is the CEO of ATAK Interactive and creator of the M2S, which is Marketing to Sales Framework. We'll talk a little bit about marketing and sales playing nice together, which is a B2B growth system that synchronizes strategy and execution in a simple, pragmatic plan. Little fun fact, Austin is a super engaged entrepreneur with a passion for helping other business owners see their vision come to light, something Dale and I are super passionate about. Company motto is strength and structure. He and his team watch their clients go from random acts of marketing that would never happen in a startup into an organized operation that can measure, super important, and optimize success at each stage of the customer journey. Dale, you're going to learn a lot from this episode.
This is going to be a great
but
episode
more importantly, Austin, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining. Appreciate it. So we like to kick off and understand, you're not really a startup company because you've been around for a little while, but what made you start ATAK? What was the genesis? What was your origin story? What was the passion around starting the company?
Okay, so ATAK actually acquired my old marketing agency many, many moons ago, which was at the time, let's be honest, it was a glorified freelance business with an LLC title, right?
Hey.
And so we merged those companies because I think we both saw something in one another. I think what ATAK was doing really well is they had strength and structure. What I had was vision, ideas, and enthusiasm. And I think what we were able to recognize that within playing in the structure of ATAK with clients that they had that wanted to take their businesses to areas that ATAK just didn't have the resources to build at that time, we were able to take that structure and the technical support that ATAK had been founded on with my marketing background, as well as my ability, I think, to understand a visionary mindset and be able to go, okay, I see where you want to go, and now this is where this is how we're gonna get there.
Sweet, love that.
So it's funny, we were talking before the show, and there's all this talk on sales and marketing. What does sales own? What does marketing own? And then I feel like there's always this, pushing of like, well, we brought you great leads and your team couldn't close these damn leads. And like, you didn't bring me good leads. My team's the best. Your leads suck. And sales and marketing, like working together, it's complicated and very few people know how to drive that alignment so that they're working together. And I'm biased. I'm a sales leader. I will go on record and say I think that typically happens on the marketing side where there's a disconnect, but you can prove me wrong and I'm happy to hear it. How do you get sales and marketing talking together so that like it's revenue, right? At the end of the day, it's all revenue.
This is a great question, and we're not going to be as much at odds as you think.
Okay, I love it.
Marketing has to grow up. Marketing used to be able to get away with a lot, right? When it worked, you looked like a genius, and when it didn't work, they say, 50% of marketing works, you just don't know what 50% and all those dumb cliches. Now, we got everybody really into all these digital tools, and our reporting is so spot on, and guess what? We've never been more accountable. And we're finding vanity metrics in areas that just always seem like those, like, hey, high five, like site traffic. Great, you got a lot of people to the site. Cool. How's that going? How about SEO SERPs? I got a client right now that's on page one for about 5 to 10, like bottom of the funnel keywords, like their professional service, so company, firm, those type of keywords. 0 conversions.
Yep.
What's going on? Now, an SEO would say, hey, we did our job. We got you on page one. We did what we said we were going to do. But the difference in my company, in the area where I think marketers have to grow up, is we say, well, shit, okay, we solved the hard part. We got you on page one. Now, let's bring in our CRO guides and let's make sure this page starts converting. Like, let's do everything we have to do. Let's build content that showcases the social proof that illuminates just how great your company actually is. And I think that is the difference that marketing has these days, is they have got to be accountable to the point of conversion first. And then second, they've got to be working within the tools, particularly within the CRM, to be able to ensure that those aren't just like marketing qualified leads, they're sales qualified leads, and they're taking all of the tactics and all the fun stuff in the toolbox and putting it all the way to the point of sale.
So you bring up a really good point. So I'm curious, and I'm sure the audience would love to know, how do you get that? How do you go from vanity metrics into these more convertible metrics, like more concrete? Is it compensation? Is it tying to, like, where do you go with that from a marketing perspective?
I think you have to go in from an honest conversation in day one that says, here's the relationship that you're trying to invest in. You grow or my company goes, right? So it's in my best interest to create a long-term relationship with a customer. How am I going to do that? By throwing away all the BS and making sure that we're only talking about the conversions.
And
So
how long does that usually take for you guys? Because I think that's the other thing when people are talking about bringing in people like ATAK, it's like, oh, it's going to take me way too long to get the value out of it. So how fast can you generate that value while not like cutting the corners? Because you know what it's going to take. It could take, okay, it's going to take 6 months. But as long as you're tracking through to the milestones that you're running, I'm just curious.
I'll tell you a story. I had a company, they do ABA therapy, and they were really bummed with their previous Google Ads partner. They were like, "We want paid to work. We've been spending a ton. We haven't got anything." He's like, "Just tell me how long it's going to take to get the results I want. I can't promise I'm going to be happy with your answer, but give me your honest answer." And I said, "This is not an engagement I love, because I'm going to tell you a number, but you've been burned so many times, and on my path towards getting to that number, you're going to be so upset that I'm going to have to talk you off the ledge. But if you give me 3 months, I will get this humming in 3 months." Started in early January, right? February 1st, I get the angry email. What is going on? Why did we got 0 conversions this week after 7 the week before? And I'm like, oh my gosh, he doesn't want to hear anything about Google Learning, whatever. And so, but at the same time, he's a passionate entrepreneur. And so I had to go back to my original proposal and said, I pleaded with you to give me these months because I knew you'd be in this position. I know patience is wearing thin, but give me those 3 months. And in those 3 months, we've been able to really turn it around. March has been fantastic. My team, which, you know how pressure goes. It starts from the client, then it comes to me, and then it goes to the directors, and then the poor account managers, my God. But, so they went from being anxious, messes to just super excited because we've been able to see those conversions. They're starting to get the customers that they're looking for. And so I do believe that it takes 3 months of good testing if you're looking at like a singular source, just like Google Ads, and then you can build on top of that. But that's a great question, because you're right. Everybody wants the answer quickly. They don't want me to come in and say, okay, let's talk about your brand this month, and I'm going to do an analysis, and here, we're going to audit this. He said, you get the business if you can tell me how long it's going to take and you perform. And I said, let's bet on ourselves. Let's go.
Love that.
I love that too. I think, though, it's a balance, right? We work with a lot of folks who we have very similar conversations. It's like, just come in and tell me how long until I can see revenue. Or my favorite is, Dale, if I hire you, how long until I have product market fit? I don't know. There's so many different variables that go in there. But I think on the marketing side, there's some very concrete things that you can do and very concrete things that you can show to show that things are moving in the right direction. When you're working with Austin founders or CEOs to do that, how do you like simplify your strategy, right? Because there's a lot of mumbo jumbo acronyms, marketing this, demand that, SEO this, SEM that. Like, how do you really simplify it so that your client understands what it is you do, how it is you do it, and the result you're going to deliver?
Great question. I first want to
You
know
hear
your
that, Dale?
vision.
Great question.
You only get
You're the best.
one episode, so you're done.
First comes the vision. So I want to know where it is you want to go. Paint that promised land for me. Then I need to look under the hood. I need to understand the data. Next, I need the market segments, and I don't need a ton of market segments. I need market segments that are going to be marketed to differently. I really don't want more than 3. Okay? So then I'm going to take those 3 or less market segments, and we are going to go very granularly and decide how are we going to attract prospects? How are we going to convert those prospects to opportunities? How are we going to close those opportunities into customers? And then how are we going to delight those customers? And we're going to break it down that simply. Okay, these are the tactics that we're going to take to try and bring people in the funnel. All right, where are they going? When they get to a landing page, why would they convert? Well, what social proof have we identified? Do we need to have some sort of explainer video? What is it going to take to make people take the leap and then get in our orbit? Once they're there, how are they going to go from person who meets our sales team to customer? And that is
Yep.
where you bring in sales, because you're telling sales, I want to bring them on this path, but you are such a vital part of this path. So you tell me what should happen once someone comes into the funnel until they become a customer. What support do you need? And we really break it down in this simple format. And once people can see it like that, it becomes so much clearer. Now, there is this one little part where when you paint this beautiful strategy of how you're going to attract, convert, close, and delight, you recognize there are obstacles. There are technology obstacles. Wow, all that automation sounded really cool. How do you do that? Well, what CRM are you on? Well, you're currently using Excel sheets. Fantastic. uh, or we're using Pipe Drive, but we don't really know how to use it. Or one of our best use cases is we're using HubSpot, but we don't know how to use it because we know that HubSpot's going to be able to
We know all about that one.
make everything sing once you have the right pieces in the right place. And then content typically is another big obstacle people have because they really want to be able to tell this story. They want to be able to showcase how great they are, but they don't have any of it, or they've tried to chat GPT it, which has some value, but not a ton. Um, and really, once they can recognize where those obstacles are, get the right technology, the right content, the right processes, and the right resources, then they can go and they can really start humming on that attract, convert, close, delight rhythm, and hopefully be able to utilize all those tactics across sales and marketing to be able to get those results that they're looking for.
Interesting. The one of the big things I picked out of that was really using the data, because a lot of it is done by gut, right? So there's 2 things you said in that conversation. How do you make sure that you're getting the right data and that you're not skewing the data based on gut feeling from the founder or gut feeling from the executive team? And then the second part of that question is, when you start rolling that out and deploying it, like, how are you validating it along the way? Like, are you bringing them, because it sounds like alignment, which is the biggest challenge I always see with people, like, set expectations early and check with them often.
I think the beauty comes in A/B testing, because what you get to do is very nicely showcase to people that their gut is not as cool as they think it is.
Yeah.
And I know this firsthand. When I started running Google Ads for my company, I'm a creative writing major. I love the written word. When I communicate, it's going to sound awesome and cool. And so I wrote all the copy and nothing converted ever. And my team was like, can we please just do what everybody else is doing? It's just very straightforward and concise. And I'm like, boring, but okay, let's do it. Let's run an A/B test. And all of a sudden, the leads just started coming in, and I was like, okay, great. Humbled. So I've tried to take that same experience and bring that to my customers. Hey, that's a great idea. And I want to make sure we put that in the mix. We're also going to try a couple of these approaches too. We're going to start putting this out to the market. We're going to see where the engagement comes from. And then based on what the data tells us, that's the direction we're going to go in. And I'll tell you, people are always happy to be humbled when they see a better way, even if it wasn't their original way, when things start to actually click and work.
People buy from people. That's why companies who invest in meaningful connections win. The best part? Gifting doesn't have to be expensive to drive results, just thoughtful. Sendoso's intelligent gifting platform is designed to boost personalized engagement throughout the entire sales process. Trust me, I led sales for a Sendoso competitor, and I could tell you, no one does gifting better than Sendoso. If you're looking for a proven way to win and retain more customers, visit sendoso.com. It's funny what you just said though, because you're a creative writing major. You're going to write it. It's going to be great. Like I say this a lot. In fact, I think Dale, you might remember I said this when we were building our website. Like just because I like this color, just because I like this picture, doesn't matter unless I'm the one who's buying it. It's got to be what's going to convert. And I think a lot of founders don't realize that. It's this old if I build it, they will come mentality. And that's not the case. Like if you're not solving needs, if you're not solving problems, the leads aren't going to convert, the sales aren't going to close, and you're ultimately not going to have a company and your product's going to die. And we want to avoid that. And that starts with great marketing and great sales. You mentioned that your company came to be through an acquisition. And I'm sure with that journey, there were probably more than one, but definitely a setback or two where things just didn't go as planned. Where you thought something was going to go one way and you wake up the next morning and you're partnered with a guy like Dale and you're like, gotta figure this shit out. Talk to us about like a setback that comes to mind where like it really could have derailed the progress of ATAK and how you changed it.
Ooh. Feel like I need a lifeline to the lawyers right now about what I'm allowed to talk about and what I'm not allowed to talk about. I will just say that ATAK had to evolve after the acquisition. We were 3 partners. About 3 years after that, we consolidated to 2 partners where we are today. And things have grown year over year since then in the company, and it's been a lot stronger. I think what you recognize when you get into partnerships and all of a sudden there's a lot of seats at the table, certain things that we all wanted and we all hoped and dreamed were going to be harmoniously great and everything was going to be this wonderful ascent didn't necessarily come the way that we thought. And at that point, we all started looking in the mirror and looking around and seeing where things were and weren't working and had to make some decisions that were best for the company. And I think one thing I did realize far more before this acquisition is that when you are partnering with people and owning a company, the company comes first. And at some point, you have to do what's best for the company, even when it can be really, really hard. Was that a political enough answer that gave any insight whatsoever? Some of those things are sensitive. Those lawyers write very scary things in their agreements.
Yes, it is true. We hear that all the time. So I'm curious. We talk a lot about churn, and I always believe that churn is an organizational problem. So as people are churning out, a lot of people get stuck in customer success being the problem in churn. I'm curious your perspective, where churn starts, how it gets converted, where should we be managing churn in the organization? I have a perspective. I'll tell you after you tell me your perspective.
Wait, I just want to clarify. Are we talking about like employee churn, or are we talking about like user churn in a product?
Customer churn. Yeah, customer churn.
Okay. I mean, that's why we have that delight bucket at the end, right? You high five after after we get to that close. We close the customer. Woohoo! Now we have to delight them, right? And we have to create that great customer experience. And I think one of the things is you're going to adopt in the first few months or you're not.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, particularly because we're strong HubSpot partners, that HubSpot leans on partners like us who can offer all these auxiliary services. I don't know if I can say that word. And to come in and to be able to showcase how to use the product to the fullest. And I think when you get some of that outside support, it does set you up for success, right? That is one area where I see, because I tell HubSpot all the time, I said, well, none of our customers churn. And they're like, why? I was like, we turn this into the single source of truth for their business. Like, they can't churn. That's a 2-3 year untangling. So I feel like internally, if you don't have the opportunity to bring in those partners, you've got to be able to make sure that companies, your customers, are adopting the program to its fullest, and you are really putting all the resources into identifying how they're using the product and seeing those trends and getting ahead of them before it gets too late.
Makes complete sense. I have a perspective that it could start with marketing. Churn could be you have the wrong ICP. And so a lot of times we're pushing it onto like a customer success or delight. But I have a perspective that, it could be we're talking to the wrong people. We're bringing the wrong people in through the top of funnel. It could be the salespeople overselling the product that's not executing. It could be product that's not delivering what we think we're pitching in sales or you're articulating in marketing. So I find this feedback loop super interesting from CS back into marketing and sales. I don't think enough companies do it properly, but that's just one man's perspective on it.
I like that perspective. It's funny. I have this whole 4 pillars of successful agency client relationships thing, and I don't need to go through it all. But the last one I always say is customer success. Either what we're doing is having an impact, or it's not. And if it's not having an impact, they can love us. They can be, hey, way to hit those deadlines. Hey, thanks for over communicating. But if it's not working, they're leaving. And the same thing goes for any product. So either you're solving this particular customer's problem or you're not. And you're right. At any point in that sales cycle, whether it's how the product's marketed, again, if it's oversold, sometimes it is customer success that you might, take their eye off the ball. But at the end of the day, it either is creating value for a company or it's not.
The value piece is so important, right? Because if you're not creating that value, everything else is just noise. And to do that, you have to balance, in my opinion, between what I'll call innovation and execution, right? How innovative do we want to be? How quick do we want to ship things, so to speak? Or how perfect do we want this execution to be? I know this answer, I know how a lot of founders answer this from a startup perspective, but from a perspective of what ATAK does, how do you guys balance that innovation versus execution?
I think when people come to ATAK and they're looking for some sort of growth, and typically that's going to come more on the execution side than the innovation side. Now, sometimes if we're creating something, within their CRM, some sort of automation, that does require us bringing in a knowledge and workarounds and just things that a customer didn't even know existed. But most of the time, we have to create an area, or we have to create a roadmap where our execution leads to those results. And we're not as in the, hey, let's create this super innovative marketing strategy field. We obviously, when it comes to innovation, we're always looking at tools, particularly right now, AI, how we can move faster, but how we can execute faster and better is a lot more of our focus than the innovation. We typically have a client who is probably more innovative than us, and we're either trying to take our execution to match that, or we're trying to scale them back and say, can we work on getting results first and then being super unique second.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Totally
I love that. Sense. Good perspective.
Yeah, really good perspective. Awesome. Well, at Revenue Reimagined, we believe in giving more than receiving. Adam loves this part of the concept call. What would you like to provide to the audience, Austin?
I'll for one lucky listener.
Yeah.
I'd love to provide a free hour growth strategy. Really looking at that, attract, convert, close the light model, and see maybe where we can align sales and marketing just a little bit and help help a customer be able to at least have a little bit of a roadmap moving forward.
Love that. That's
Dale,
great.
you may not enter. Austin, AI is changing the world, right? Both in the marketing side, the sales side, the consulting side, and everything in between. How is that going to impact ATAK? Where do you see you guys going in the next 3 to 5 years? And how do you plan on incorporating AI the right way to meet the market needs?
Fantastic question. This was what gave me, kept me up at night in Q4 of last year. What are we going to do? Right? This company, when it first started, was building websites for local companies. They can go to Wix.com right now, put in three pieces of information about themselves, and boom, they spit out a website. Now, so we're not going to be doing that. What we are going to do, though, is think through that prism of like what is going to be around in 20 years. People are still going to be utilizing top technology such as CRMs, marketing automation tools, and whatnot. So instead of having developers that can build a simple website, our developers are going to be able to continue to connect within different ecosystems. Currently, we do a ton of integrations: Salesforce to HubSpot, Salesforce NetSuite, HubSpot, HubSpot NetSuite. So I'm trying to put all my resources into the winning ecosystems, particularly Salesforce, HubSpot, Zendesk on the revenue operations side, because I believe that we're going to be able to utilize those AI tools to make these software applications that people already use even more efficient. Be able to eliminate as much admin as possible, right? Anything that's not driving revenue, and we'll be able to use AI to make this a lot quicker. We have a current customer who is not happy with the amount of CX staff he has to have, and we're currently trying to build a chat tool that utilizes the back end of GPT to maybe streamline that whole process and make that a little bit easier for their company. So we're looking at all of the different ways. I actually had a conversation with my VP of strategy the other day. She's just at the forefront of all of these things, and I was like, I feel like you're using AI to code all of these things, and like you've got all of these app ideas, and I'm still like typing in like, what are 10 synonyms for trying hard? To chat GPT. I don't think that the creative industry is going to be completely replaced by AI by any means. I do think it's going to help creative people become more creative, and I'm excited to see where things go. But I continue to look at what's not going to change in 20 years, and then be able to provide what our company mission really is, which is helping our customers utilize the latest technology to grow their business.
I love it.
Awesome. Let's wrap up with a little bit of rapid fire. One or two word answers if you can. Some may have more, but if not, Adam's gotta get hit by a gong. So we'll start here. If you weren't in tech, what profession would you be in?
Sports.
What kind of sport?
I'm jealous of the guy who built the Underdog app. I'd probably be one of those people who are at like FanDuel or one of those things. Some sort of like fun sports gambling with a little bit of fantasy, all that fun stuff. Yeah.
I love it. What's your favorite guilty pleasure snack?
Guilty pleasure. Oh my gosh, there are these one or two word answers. Australian licorice. Yeah, Australian licorice.
We have a client that's from Australia. We'll have to ask him to bring some back. What's the first app you check when you wake up in the morning?
Twitter.
All right. This one is highly relevant to you. You're a new company. Where do you start first, marketing or sales?
Sales.
Ooh, interesting.
I like it.
Why? I have to know more why from a marketing guy.
I know it's a little bit different with startups when you're, especially if you're heavily funded and you're playing with other people's money. I run a business that has zero debt, and to me, it's always been about making sure that we are ahead. And I think that people who can sell probably market better than you think. People who market can't necessarily sell.
Touche.
Great perspective. Okay, last one. Dream vacation destination.
South Island, New Zealand.
Nice.
Didn't even hesitate.
That one's been on
Austin.
the list. The kids just got to get a little bit older, so we can all go. But that's top of the list.
I love it. Austin, thank you so much for joining. Thanks for sharing your story, your insights, your thoughts. Where can people find you? Where can people learn more about ATAK?
www.atakinteractive.com is great. Why don't we just start there? And if they want to find me on LinkedIn, Austin LaRoche, LaRoche. I'd love to connect with anybody who hears this and got some good value out of it.
Awesome. Austin, thanks so much for joining the show, man. We appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Austin.
All right, thanks,
Appreciate
guys.
it.